Hi, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Data Dojo. I'm your host, Swagata, and today I have a very incredible special guest joining me. It's an honor to welcome Ed Macosky, the Chief Product and Technology Officer at Boomi. It's been an honor to have you, and I'm really excited to talk to you, have a really good conversation with you. So, Ed is a visionary leader with over 20 years of experience building high performance agile teams and working with software and service products. He's spent most of his career with Boomi and, taken us from skyrocketing with our AI vision and significantly important to the growth and innovation going forward. I'm really excited to welcome you on board, Ed. So, thank you for doing this with us.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So just to begin with, I most of the viewers might be familiar with Boomi. I've spoken a lot about Boomi and leaders at Boomi. But looking at your career trajectory, you've spent a lot of your time with Boomi and different positions in different team. Would you like to share more about your journey, starting from where you started Boomi with today at leading Boomi as a chief technology officer and product officer?
Sure, happy to. I can go on about this for hours, so stop me if I'm covering way too much. But
Sure.
the my time, with Boomi goes before I joined Boomi. I found joy in integrating systems way back in college. I went to Penn State University. I actually got my degree in applications and integration,
Hmm.
degree in from information science technology. I happened to find Boomi early on as a small startup. I was one of the first 10 employees of the company. And when I joined, my career was first and foremost, it was helping our customers implement the technology that we had. So I got a lot of practical implementation work. Then from there, I learned, I took over service support. I built that organization as the company scaled. And then at one point, I made a big jump, moving from the service side of the house to running our engineering team. And then left Boomi for a period, worked for Oracle, was a vice president there. So I went from a smaller kind of environment to a very, very big
Right.
environment and then came back. And maybe we can talk about that a little bit more later. But that is where, that change in my career kind of fueled things from there. And when I came back to run product, which was yet another pivot in my career, I ran engineering teams for a period of time. And I was running product management overall, and I was never actually a product manager. But that's kind of the
Right.
theme of my career. I ran an engineering team. I was never actually a software developer as an engineer.
Right.
But to where I am now, running all product and engineering here for Boomi, and just super excited and happy and glad to be here.
Yeah. That's quite a switch, right? Like from leading engineering teams to product teams, and the mindset might have been literally different. In my experience, very little experience working with product teams, the focus has been building roadmaps, and we engineers are like, just want to do hands-on and don't focus too much on the planning. So, how has your experience been leading both these teams?
It's been great, actually. And I've told that, I like to say, I don't know, maybe it's math in my brain, but if you take a service delivery person or someone who is implementing a product, and then you give them an opportunity to run engineering like I did, and
Hmm.
then you average those two things together, you get a
Yeah.
product person. And
Yeah.
that kind of set up for me. I didn't know. I did, but it was, hey, I understand what our customers want. I understand how engineering teams think. But while maintaining a customer focus, and it's done really well for me. I like oscillating between both. I like really, really working with our customers. And then I like taking that back and being able to connect with our engineers and talk about and bring that to them and help our
Mhm.
engineering teams understand what the value they're delivering. So I think it's been great. Maybe you can tell me a little bit about that, but I've had a great time.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So, moving to your entire career, you mentioned you've pivoted engineering and managing product teams, and Boomi being a integration in the integration space, they have survived a huge wave of different technological advancement, and with AI being the focus for the past 1.5, 2 years, the pace of advancement is so rapid. So, I want to know your thoughts leading a product and technology team and vision for Boomi when AI is, the AI adoption aspect has become very critical for most of the companies and for us. So how do you manage the vision given the pace at which AI is advancing?
So great question. So for us, it's finding, first and foremost, I constantly think about where does Boomi have the right to win in the AI space? There are so many things
Right.
happening in AI. There's so many different pieces of the stack and innovations happening. But what is our lane that we need to stay in? What do
Hmm.
customers expect from us? What does the market expect from us?
Right.
And that is things like, okay, connecting AI systems, ensuring data is of high quality for AI,
Mm-hmm.
orchestrating AI, those types of things, because that's what's native in our DNA is orchestrating,
Right.
automating, integrating. So I think we've done a really nice job so far in defining the scope and projects of what our customers are looking for, listening to our customers and what they need, and delivering on those.
Right.
And listening to the market is what's very, very important. I'll say when we go back about a year and a half ago, Steve and I and some others, Steve Lucas, our CEO, and I and some others had some discussions. What are we going to do in AI? And we had a theory. Or we had ideas that we wanted to go after. The
Mm-hmm.
fact is, 3 to 6 months later, our customers came back and said, "Yeah, we like those, but we would like these things." And as maybe some of there's auto documentation generation capabilities we have in Boomi Scribe and some others.
Yeah.
We were very flexible in, okay, we've got an idea, we'll put it out to market, but we're going to listen to our
Mm-hmm.
customers and not be stubborn about trying to do what we believe is right, but really
Right.
collaborate with our customers. And that has been extremely important for us, which has led us to a lot of growth in these areas and respect
Mm-hmm.
from our customers. So it's been very exciting.
Awesome. So you mentioned a very interesting point, like putting things out and listening to the customers. And given that, we are building a lot of things very fast in an agile manner, I had a very interesting conversation with the CTO of Global Logic recently, who mentioned how critical it is for being agile, given the pace at which we are moving. But kind of counterintuitive, it is like you have to listen to the customers, also be agile, also adopt AI at the rate at which it's moving fast. Like within 2 weeks, things change in this field right now. So how do you incorporate taking feedback from the customers at the same time being agile, at the same time, being cognizant of everything else?
Yeah, it's all in a matter of the structure. To me, my opinion, because I know that's what you're asking. It's a matter in the structure of the way you're running agile and the different roles that people play, right? Like for us specifically, we've got our Scrum teams and our dev teams, developers with QE, quality engineers,
Mm-hmm.
and product owners that are running the rituals of Scrum. Some teams are doing 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, because we allow some flexibility. And it's protecting those teams, giving them the scope, and letting them do that every couple of weeks. And even in the last year, we've made some improvements to that to allow teams to pivot more on scope to give them more flexibility in a true kind of scrum manner.
Right.
But you let them be and let them deliver. Now, the important piece is the product manager role that we have. I'll call it over the top of that, that's interfacing with the market. So our
Mm-hmm.
PMs and those like me and Steve and others are talking to our customers, talking to the market,
Mm-hmm.
researching. We also have an innovation group that's bringing that
Right.
information from the market into the product managers, that the PMs then connect in with the POs and say, okay, these are the changing priorities. Here's the things we
Mm-hmm.
need to go. So any given sprint, we can inject in new requirements. We
Mm-hmm.
allow our roadmap to change. We just literally did one recently. We do our product roadmap session every quarter. So we're
Right.
communicating with our customers and our field and everyone. Here's where we pivoted. Here's how things have changed. If we had a true waterfall approach, which I've seen before,
Yeah.
it takes you 18 to 24 months to move,
Right.
and you just
Yeah.
can't do it. So we're in a good spot.
Absolutely. Yeah, agreed, agreed. I love the pace at which we are building things. At the same time, we are focusing, like you said, the innovation group is doing these quick POCs on what's their latest happenings in AI. So it's great, a great balance. So can you share, and there have been few guests from Boomi who shared like some of the cool stuff in AI that we are developing, but anything that you would like to share that you're really proud of or excited about at Boomi that we are building?
So I am really proud of. I'll cover two general buckets. I am really proud of the agents that we just released. I
Yeah.
alluded to it a little bit before, but I'm proud that we had ideas as a leadership team to start, and we allowed the team to run and really deliver customer value, and our customers love that. So I'm really proud of the
Yeah.
first set of agents because we moved very quickly. It was not in our
Mm-hmm.
plan. Talking about
Yeah.
Scrum, we had this whole roadmap plan, and we didn't have anything about it. And then Gen
Yeah.
AI hit, whatever it was, 18 months ago,
Yeah.
and the team did an amazing job delivering that. Very,
Mm-hmm.
very proud. The second thing I'm proud of is our ideas around and what we're working on now and what's coming the second half of this year in terms of our agent garden, our agent registry, the catalog, the agent catalog concepts that we're working on, and agent orchestration to help customers with cataloging, orchestrating, integrating agents in their environment.
Yeah.
None of our competitors have thought of this. We stake the claim and we're leading in this. I've talked to a lot of analysts. We've got to execute on it, which we are doing, but we just super exciting stuff. And it gets me pumped. This is the first time, I talked about, I've been integrating for years,
Right.
and through my entire career it has been more of the same. The patterns, hub
Mm-hmm.
and spoke, point to point, pub sub, all the integration
Yeah,
patterns have just been done differently with different tools and called different things over the years. For the first time, AI and the rise of Gen AI is really opening up new ways of thinking of how systems integrate and interop
right.
together. So a whole evolution of application integration and data integration is happening in front of our eyes. Nobody knows exactly where it's going, but I'm just excited that we're on the forefront of driving that.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't agree more. The pace at which we kind of build this entire agent architecture and we are still making more advancement to it has been great, and kudos to the entire team and your vision to make that happen in such a short time. All right, so you talked a lot about the interesting AI features that Boomi has been building. In the past 1.5, 2 years since Gen AI, do you see any challenges in not just us, but companies in general adopting Gen AI and anything? How do we overcome it if there are any challenges?
Challenges all over the place. I talk with CIOs and CPOs and CTOs all the time.
Mm,
And in fact, I don't know what the latest numbers are, but I've talked to some where their projects are only 5% success rate or 10% success rate, that
yeah,
sort of thing, because this buzz is happening and everybody's running around trying to figure out. It's just you see the Dilbert cartoons. It's Gen
yeah,
AI, Gen AI,
yeah,
Gen AI.
yeah.
Go fund the projects. The thing that you have to always worry, the number one thing is focus on business value and being practical. That's what I always
Mm,
anchor towards. Like,
right.
okay, what is the outcome you expect in this Gen AI project? What are the outcomes for your customers? Everybody has a customer. If
Yeah.
you're in a business, you have a customer. If you're in IT, your customer could be the line of business. If you're actually
Mm-hmm.
responsible for the line of business, your customer is your end customer. What does your customer want out of your Gen AI? And if you can show iterative results in your project,
Right.
you will be successful at least at some level. Far too often, people, I know data science, AI, but people internally here at Boomi get mad at me because they get frustrated with me because I don't make it a science project. It's not just about the academia of it. Don't go
Yeah.
play with tools for the next 6 months and have nothing
Yeah.
to show for it. Identify an outcome you want, achieve that outcome,
Mm-hmm.
and then go from there. You can't lose if you do that.
Right. Yeah. That's a very, very valid point. So I mean, I hear you and Steve and all the leaders at Boomi talk a lot about the interesting things that are happening in Gen AI space, and it seems like uh, you are able to do a lot of research and keep up with the pace at which it's moving, and us engineers are also finding it really hard to keep up with the pace. So how do you manage to keep up with the pace at and learn so much while managing, the gazillion other things you do?
For me, and I can't speak for Steve, but for me, it's I get the benefit of all of you in the company. I'm constantly bombarded with, in a good way, not in a bad way. Ed, have you looked at this latest technology? Or here's this article
Mm,
about this, or this is emerging here. And every day I'm meeting
right.
with team members about different topics.
Mm-hmm.
People are bringing things to me, which send me down rabbit holes to do research and take a look at
Yeah.
things. In
Yeah.
fact, the way it's just might be the way my brain works. If I go sit down tomorrow morning and say, okay, I'm going to research Gen AI right now, I don't know where to
Yeah.
start. Like there's so
Right.
many things,
Yeah.
but I'm blessed and lucky enough to get to meet with so many different amazing technology companies in my role that give me
Mm-hmm.
these tips of here, check out this emerging startup that's doing X or this one doing Y. And then I'll feed that to our different team members and they feed things back to me. And it's just the
Right.
circular research that gets done. So it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So, you mentioned that, you get all this information from other leaders and people like us. Are there any, I mean, you still have to, as a leader, you have to still put in the vision. Like Boomi has been doing a lot of partnership with different companies and figuring out what is right thing to do and what's in our budget. Given all the information you're getting about AI trends, you still need to come up with the right vision for us. So are there any tips and trick as a leadership skill that you would want to educate us with?
I would just say always listen to the customer. That has been, I've talked about that several times here already, but
Right.
it is what's worked for me. And there's a lot of engineering leaders that, I'll say it to give advice. There's a lot of engineers that want to get into leadership, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
engineers are sheltered from the end customer and don't have that
Right.
advantage. But always listen to the customer, spend
Right.
time with in practical applications of whatever you're working in. For me, it's integration. So in
Mm-hmm.
automation and understanding the way businesses work, talking to them, not just in your technology, but overall. And for me in my career, spending that time, even when I was at Oracle for the 5 years, I was in a development team running that and I was several steps away from the customer, but I found my
Right.
way to the customer. I was very deliberate about it, and it helped me. And then
Hmm.
over time, as you get experience in your career, your gut ultimately, people talk about the
Right.
gut, but your gut will tell you what the right decision is. You get the different
Mm.
inputs, and it's go this way, or here's the vision of what we anticipate people will want because we've seen this before. I've seen this before,
Right.
and that's what helps.
Hmm.
So, and being open and not very, the last piece is not being stubborn on an idea that you have yourself.
Yeah.
I see this very often. I'm right, and everybody's going to love this. No, take your
Yeah.
idea, talk to people, get their feedback, and really be open to feedback. And I think that
Absolutely.
is that's easier said than done for a lot of people.
Absolutely. Like if you start off with an idea and you have to be open to pivot it. I mean, most of the times I've heard people who start companies never end up doing the problem that they were initially starting to solve. That same goes for any problem you're trying to solve. So
Yes,
you would say that to be a technology leader, it's of course you need to listen to your customers, know the problem. And also I think it's very important to have really good domain knowledge. Like for your case, you've spent a
yeah,
lot of time in the integration industry, so that gives you really better ideas compared to somebody who just has the technical skills. So it's a combination of domain knowledge, having the mindset of
yes,
listening to customers, and then being, of course, aware of the technology.
yes. Great point. The domain knowledge, can't forget that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's something that I learned when I also started. Like, it's important to be a good data scientist to have like all these toolkits and technology. But if you don't understand the domain, you would not be able to come up with a really good solution. You would not be able to understand what data you need. If you don't have good data, you're not going to solve the problem. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, I mean, you talked a little bit about Bhumi's vision for the next year, but if you had to come up with the future over the next 5 years, and I know it's hard to predict given, how things are changing, but do you have like a high level plan or anything you can share?
High level, I think if we continue to be the world leader in the industry leader in integration and application integration and automation and data management and API management, but also be the leader in AI agent management, orchestration, um, integration in that front as well in 5 years, I think we're in a great spot. Getting ecosystems, applications, integration or applications, ecosystems, data sets, et cetera, is always going to be a problem for Boomi to solve as technologies evolve. That's the great thing about being in our space.
Hmm.
But being a leader in that next wave of the way this will work and the patterns that emerge is what's critical. And if we're there in 5 years, we'll be in a great spot.
Absolutely. Yeah, very well said. I think I have one last question, and you dived a little bit into it when you were talking about your journey, your career journey. But anything like any key milestones that have significantly, shaped your opinion on technology and leadership, or anything that our audience can learn from you, given your expertise?
Yeah, there were two. Two of them come to mind. So one was when I mentioned earlier, I was growing my career at a steady pace in Boomi in the service area. Like I mentioned,
Mm.
I was doing services support, et cetera, building those teams, building training teams, all customer focused. And the milestone was when Chris McNabb, who was our GM at the time, he was in the CEO of Boomi later. He asked me if I'd be interested in running the engineering team, and I was faced
Mm.
with a big and you hear it from different other industry leaders. There's many
Yeah,
content, but it's like say yes, and then even if you
figure
don't
it out later.
figure it out. So
Yeah.
I said yes, and I took over engineering, and I was like, I don't know how to run engineering teams, but I figured it
Yeah,
out, and
yeah.
so that was the big step. And if I didn't do that, my career, but
Mm.
that was the step that started accelerating my career because then the next big one was literally just a year later
Right.
when the opportunity to go to Oracle presented itself, and
Mm.
and and that was a big milestone for me because as much as I loved Boomi and I did not want to leave, I looked at that as an opportunity to just step out in my career and learn something different. I
Right.
needed a different perspective.
Mm.
And again, that accelerated my career. There's stories as to how it's helping me now help lead Boomi
Right.
based on what I learned in Oracle as an enterprise. And I wouldn't have gotten that if I didn't step out. So I have this conversation with our employees a lot, my team, my employees a lot. I don't encourage them to leave. I'm never going to do that. But at the same time, it's, hey, step out of your comfort zone.
Right.
If your journey takes you there, don't be afraid of it. Say yes. If it's
Mm.
going to take you somewhere else, how can I help you with that?
Yeah.
Chris McNabb was very, very supportive of me, interestingly, moving to Oracle, as he knew I was going to compete with him there. But he
Mm.
was, it's one moment in my career I will never forget, to the tune that I promised him when I made my next move, he would be my next phone call. And 5 years later, Chris McNabb was my first phone call. And I ended up
Wow.
coming back, and I'm just still excited to be here again 5 years later.
Yeah.
So
Wow. That's a very, very inspirational story. It's quite a lot to learn. So always say yes and get out of
always
your
say,
comfort
I
zone.
mean, I did within reason. It's like,
Of
hey,
course.
if someone says, hey, you want to be a surgeon, you're not going to say yes to that, but within the proper training. But
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's so important to have like leaders who support you. So I mean I can say that the culture within Boomi has been really awesome to work with. The leadership has been awesome. So thank you for that.
yeah.
All right. One last question. It's just a personal question that I'm curious to know about all the leaders who come to the show. How do you manage your work-life balance?
Hmm. Good question. Just I would be lying if I said everything was great and it's all rosy and my work-life balance is incredible
Yeah.
because the reality is it's not great. I have to be very
Right.
I do have to be very deliberate about it. I've got to go and there are times in the role and level I'm in, I've got to consciously say, hey, I've got to turn my
Yeah.
brain off and go spend time
Right.
with my family,
Yes.
because that doesn't come very natural to me. And any leaders who are like, oh, my work-life balance is great, is probably lying to some level.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I keep things fluid. I don't necessarily worry about like the 9 to 5 hours anymore in the way the world works today. If I need to go run an errand, I'll go do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do find myself locked in this room or this office for 12 hours straight sometimes.
Mm.
But I find the balance where I can. But it's hard work to do that and just be deliberate about it because sometimes I
Right.
find myself I'm a couple months later and I'm like I haven't taken a vacation, I haven't taken time off, I'm
Yeah.
working 15 hours a day.
Right.
um, but being deliberate, I know I've said that several times, is half the
Mm.
battle. It's telling yourself that, recognizing it, and making some change, even if it's temporary. Get
Right.
yourself a break, and then you get right back at it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I've even I don't, you may have noticed, but 2 weeks ago I did take or last week it was, I took a week
Yes.
vacation, and
Yeah.
because and in my I sent a weekly email, which I think is a great thing for any leader to do. Steve Lucas
Mm.
told me that, but in that weekly email, it was intentional that I told my entire team that I was taking a vacation because I know
Right.
my personality and I wanted my team to know it's okay to take time off. It's okay to take a break
Absolutely.
and vacation. And that was the point of doing that. So any of our team members that are watching, it's okay to take time off. You're entitled to it. So
Yeah, yeah, I did notice that, and I've noticed the follow-up for that question is that whenever you look at any of the leaders' calendars, it's usually like completely booked, and you have to find time maybe next week or so.
mhm.
I'm curious to know, like, when you have so many meetings, you do need time. There could be like a meeting fatigue, even if you're not necessarily the most contributing the most in the meeting, you still feel that meeting fatigue, and then you have your own set of things to do after those meetings. So, is there how do you manage that? Like spending all your day in the meetings and then finding time for doing your own IC work or something?
Yeah, there are a lot of days that are like that, but the tips and tricks are injecting meetings into the calendar that, not that I'm consciously pretending I'm in a meeting, but I will
Mm,
work with Tatiana, who is my executive admin, to inject 30-minute meetings that are for me to catch up on emails or to do
okay.
some certain set of work.
Mm,
And I've got a good, I work with her very closely. It's not that I can't do it myself. So anyone out there who's doing it, just if you have
right.
assignments to do, inject them in as meeting block. It sounds pretty
It's
dead simple, but inject
yeah.
blocks on your calendar that say, hey, I've got to go record this webinar or this video. Okay,
Mm,
I'm going to put it in there. I'm not just going to say, oh, put it as a task reminder.
right.
So
Right.
everything I put in there, I block as a meeting invite, and that does help.
Yeah.
And then Tatiana and I will get together every once in a while and say, look, it's been meeting. Let's stagger some things. We've
Yeah.
tried the whole like end it 15 minutes early or start 5 minutes
Mm,
earlier after. For me, that doesn't always work very well. I think just putting 30-minute blocks,
right.
making myself get up, walk around once in a while gives me time to think. But literally
Mm,
managing it in the calendar deliberately is worked the best for me.
that is simple yet very effective strategy. Yeah. Thanks for
Yes.
sharing that. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Those were all my main questions. I have one last section, which is called the lightning round. I'm going to ask you questions which you have to answer, try to answer in lightning speed, no pressure.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
so yeah, what's your first question? What's your favorite go-to AI platform right now?
Platform, I don't know. I'll say AI tool. So my go-to AI tool that I've been using is the most natural one in my life that I'm seeing, and it's actually AWS Rufus.
Mm,
I know it may be like this odd answer, but like most people, I shop on, or it's Amazon's Rufus. I shop on Amazon Prime all the time,
mm-hmm.
and I found Rufus to be the best one. And most recently, I like had a conversation with it and found the right sports equipment spray to eliminate the odor
Oh,
for my daughter's softball equipment. And it had, rather than have to read all of the survey or read all the feedback and
right.
customer inputs, and it told me, here's the one you should buy based on what you. So I thought that was pretty
Okay.
cool.
Interesting. I was
I don't know
expecting
if you
you.
tried. I don't know
I
if
have
you
not
tried Amazon
tried it.
Rufus yet,
I
but it's
haven't,
pretty cool.
but I'm gonna because I also shop a lot, so I'm gonna try it. I was expecting some chat GPT alternative, but nice to hear a different
I'm not going
answer.
to talk. I mean, those are all the Chat GPT, or if I
Old school.
mention any of the LLMs or any of that stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
it's I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Noted. Um, any AI buzzword you're tired of hearing?
GPT, GPT. Just
Yeah.
everything is Boomi GPT. We use Boomi GPT and GPT. That's what I'm tired of.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the
Because
first?
95% of people have no idea what GPT actually stands for, by the way, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That is true. Yeah. It just gives a nice buzz to it, like if you're using
Yeah, yeah,
GPT in your product.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What's one bold prediction you have for AI in the next decade?
Um, that it's going to give people more freedom to have better work-life balance.
Yeah, I like that. I hope that happens and hope we can move to 4-day week soon. Um, your a book that influenced your approach or your favorite book. I know it's a tough question, but anything that comes to your mind.
I'm going to go way back. Enterprise Application Integration, EAI by David Linthicum. It's the
Mhm.
one book, and most people will not cite books that they studied it in college, but that is the
Yeah,
book. Even early in this discussion, I reference like the integration patterns that have never changed.
yeah.
It's a book that very boring but good. Sorry, David, if you end up watching. And then I did get the opportunity to meet David Linthicum like early in my
Wow.
Boomi career, which is pretty cool.
Oh,
But yeah,
awesome.
that was one that just influenced. I don't know, helped me fall in love with integrating things.
So if anybody who wants to get into this integration field, they should definitely read that book.
I think I mean, I haven't looked at it in a little while, but from what I recall, everything, all the patterns, everything he discusses there still all apply today. So it's a
Hmm.
really good one.
Awesome. Awesome. Who is your biggest inspiration in the tech world?
So I am not one that puts like any particular tech person on a pedestal like that. However, I always find my direct manager and or my peers and my team members to be inspirational. I'm very deliberate about that as well. It's probably a
Mhm.
theme you're hearing. I'm deliberate and practical. But I'll name the likes of I already met Chris McNabb, Bob Mel, Steve Lucas now,
Mhm.
Kimberly Gress as a leader I've had. I love learning from my leaders and
Immediate leaders.
they're, you know, what they're good at, what they're not good at, identifying those to see how I can, it's just something I like to do. And my peers, I've got a lot of great, I mentioned Steve Lucas as my manager, but the peers I have around me at Boomi, I mean, they inspire me every day. Literally, I learn everything from Greg and Allison and Arlen and Matt Hines and crew. So I just
Right.
happy to. That's why I don't have one. I look at all these different folks and how did they get to where they are, and how can
Yeah.
I learn
Yeah.
from them?
That's a great
So
answer. I mean, if you have like a inspirational figure whom you've not worked with, or like an Elon Musk or likes of those people, you really don't know them enough. So yeah, that's a great answer. Your peers and your managers.
mhm.
Um, what do you enjoy doing outside of work to unwind? Any hobby?
You can probably see it here. There's my daughter is right here. My biggest hobby is watching my daughter play softball. We do that. We travel around the country. She's a highly competitive softball player. I love studying the team she's playing and what tournaments she's in and all kinds of stuff. So that is my hobby for now. She's going to be a junior in high school.
Oh, nice.
Spending time with her and watching her play.
Do you
So
also play with her?
yeah, I'll go out play catch. I help her with hitting and practicing, and she's better than I ever was, which is really fun as a parent.
Mm,
So I couldn't really compete with her, I don't think, but yes, I help her practice.
that's awesome. Awesome. Um, what's a biggest myth about AI that you would like to debunk?
I think that the biggest myth is that AI has real intelligence, meaning
Yeah.
it's not self-aware. We're not even close from what I can tell. Maybe someone in a lab has something that they've figured out, but I think it would.
Mm,
So, a lot of people when I talk to friends and folks out of the tech world, oh, these robots, Terminator is going to take over the world soon. That's the biggest myth.
yeah.
We're not even close.
All the movies
So,
we've seen, the sci-fi
yeah, we're
movies.
not even close. We're not even
Yeah.
close.
Yeah. Awesome. Last question. What's one piece of advice you would like to give young professionals entering the tech field or AI field?
Well, said it. I'll give a couple. One, be really deliberate about networking and working in a team like environment and work with a team. Even before that, I like to talk about young folks about I came up in team sports early on in my life. My daughter, I just talked about her playing
Mhm.
softball. She's in a team sport. I think working and interacting in a team environment, if you're a young professional doing that versus going it alone
Right.
is key. You learn a lot of communication skills.
Hmm.
You learn how to face adversity if someone from your team is unable to carry their own weight, and how do you manage that and how do you work with yourself. I see a lot of people, especially coming out of what we had a few years ago with COVID and people being isolated and working themselves kind of,
Right.
and people working from home struggling with interpersonal working with teams. So that is something to be very
Absolutely.
deliberate about. And the other thing, I just said it earlier, is focused on the customer and
Mm.
the opportunities or problems that you are solving for them versus your
Right.
own ideas. It's not far away from working as a team, but embrace the customer as a team member and learn from
Mm.
them. Learn why you're doing what you're doing. Even if I'll just make, even if you're a young professional in accounting, working in some back office role, really understand why
Customers.
you're doing what you're doing, what the
Mm.
purpose of your company is, who the customer is, and that will help you guide your journey. That's
Right.
what it is for me.
Yeah, those are very good advice. I feel, especially given how AI is kind of democratizing the hard skills or the tech skills, it's
Mhm.
so important to focus on the soft skills because those are things that are not necessarily taught really well in school. So that's something that you kind of figure it out while working.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Something else came to mind as well that I talked earlier about how I look at my managers and as it
Mm.
was the who am I inspired by. So this may sound counterintuitive, but I'll say it. Don't trust your manager to run your career for you. I also see too
Mm.
many folks work really, really hard in isolation and think that will just get them to the
Right.
next level and that will entitle them.
Hmm.
Take your career into your own hands. Look
Yeah.
out for yourself. Ask, have conversation. I think most times it's folks are afraid to talk to their leaders or their managers about the next step in their career.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, your manager is not sitting there thinking about it. They can be the nicest, most well-intentioned person.
Mm.
They're busy too, just like you are. They're not
Yeah.
thinking about your career. You've got to do that
Absolutely.
and not be afraid to talk to your leader about it. I tell this to people who report to me all the time. Come talk to me, open book, because
Absolutely.
I don't have the cycles to be thinking about your career all the time.
Right.
And if you need my help, you need to come to me. So your career is your own destiny, nobody else's. So that is something I think someone early in their career should know early on and be as ambitious as you can, but reasonable and polite and
Yeah.
respectful, and you'll be good.
Absolutely. I think it's so important, like in one-on-ones, to communicate, like if there is any feedback that your managers can give you, and
Mhm.
if you want a promotion, just say it out loud. Like, what can you do to get that promotion instead of thinking that
Exactly.
just because you're doing good work, it's gonna be given to you. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Awesome. Awesome. Those are all really great points. Yeah, that was all. Thank you so much. I would like to add that I've done many episodes so far, but never have I had a guest who's been so crisp and so articulate about sharing their point of view. So it's really nice to hear from you.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Before we wrap up, any thoughts, any takeaways you would like to share?
I don't think so. I think I've
I think
unloaded
we
all of
covered it
it.
all.
So no, I'm good. Just appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.